conservation again is very, very important because a lot of muscles are very tight in the structure, and the musculoskeletal energy conservation techniques need to be taught to our patients. Now, just sharing a picture of Acapella, the green one, the green device. It really offers a good resistance and a vibratory effect, and it has a unique valve there. So the secretions from the periphery can be centralized and the patient can cough and bring out the secretions. Now in incentive spirometer, how frequently can you use it? In the rehab unit, we advise them post cardiac surgeries or any pulmonary surgeries that to use it frequently, maybe 5 times every 1 hourly, and holding the ball at an optimal level that they can attend is very, very important. Along with that PEP, the device that I've shown in this picture today, the positive expiratory pressure device is again very important. It offers resistance for breathing exercises, and again meet our goals of achieving a removal of secretions and better air entry. Now moving on to the next topic, the orthopedic or the musculoskeletal. It's a huge topic, and we see a lot of mobilization techniques being implemented. Taping has been used extensively, and it really supports and helps reduce the pain and the ailment right away. FES, meaning functional electrical stimulation, is also extensively used in our department. It is basically the electrical stimulation of those muscles and training him in a functional activity. Mind you, in rehabilitation, the main domain is the functional activity training along with various exercises that you're giving. Now, Matrix also has proved itself very well. We are also using Matrix therapy in all domains in rehabilitation because it works very well on the elasticity issues. So I'm sure even you will use it extensively in your departments. Now, looking at this picture, this is a FES picture on the treadmill. This patient had a partial foot drop. So we were training him with functional electrical stimulation and treadmill definitely helps because it has an inbuilt speed correlated this. So the functional picture is the Pablo device that we built up the arm function, the gripping exercises. So we must have a holistic approach to the proximal muscles and the distal muscles. Now, this is a technique that which we use extensively in rehab units, the yoga asanas. These 5 asanas really help us develop a better core structure. The core muscles are fundamental, and the middle picture, the Vrikshasana, is going to help us in the balanced rehabilitation as well. If you take a good look at all the 3 postures, they're addressing the calf, the torso, the core muscles, a good stretch on the chest as well. The Trikosana also helps expand the chest. The lateral deviation on the bucket handle movement is also achieved by this asana. If the patient is not able to stand and do it, you can start off in the sitting posture. And the last picture shows the Kursi Asana, which helps the proximal muscles of the thigh. We have also developed an ankle CPM that really helps us in the sports injury patients, basically, and also to develop a better proprioception in these muscles. So this has helped us not only in orthopedic, but in neuro rehab, addressing one of the issues that repetition and the principles of rehabilitation is more and more repetition and training is required. So CPM and TheraBands are extensively used in the department. Now, moving on to neuro rehab. This is the conceptual model of neuro rehabilitation. Skill, capacity, and motivation. Motivational therapies are implemented in the program with the psychologist, and of course, the physiotherapist also can do the same. Capacity is impairment mitigation, and skill programs, like example, could be a knitting program or nailing a nail in the wall. The proximal muscles as well as the fine motor function needs to be tapped here. I like this definition of rehabilitation because you really try to reach their functional goals. So fulfilling their potential with a proper goal management is very important in neuro rehab. Now, what is the concept or what is the rationale behind neuro rehab? It is the cortical plasticity or the plasticity per se. Any change in the neuronal or the functional structure in response to the input from the environment is plasticity. And it is basically moldable. You will be alarmed at the work done with the kids because they have a great capacity to improve in their neuroplasticity skills at the age of 3. But what is happening is we are spending more money. All the budget is drifted away for the post graduation courses. Actually, neuroplasticity evolves, and we should spend early intervention time at a younger age, is what is implemented lately. This is how I started my career in neuro rehab in 2005, basically with MentaMove. I was called to share my experiences with MentaMove device in Germany. And this is an EMG feedback mechanism. Once the loop is complete, the feedback is a reward action, that is a stimulation to those muscles that we really want to activate. Coordination dynamics therapy is the recent advances in our rehab program in neurology. There are 4 new repair concepts. The first is the organization of the change and the relearning process that carries on. The second is the self-organization, the phase and frequency coordination of certain neurons, and neurogenesis and functional cell proliferation. And the fourth point of repair is the relearning, which is very, very important. Everything that fires together is wired together, especially in cases of spinal cord injury. This is a Giger MD device. It is named after the inventor named Giger. His name was Giger, and it is a medical device, MD meaning medical device. This is extensively used in various positions of supine, sitting, or even standing. And this has really helped our patients with disorders of consciousness as well. Now, moving on, having a holistic approach in neuro rehab, when we are treating spinal cord injury patients, strength training and endurance training become the main domain. But other than that, a lot of modifications are required in their orthosis. If you see the picture down here, it is showing you the capstans that are provided on the wheels so that the patient can maneuver it independently and be independent in his activities of daily living. So certain things in the cord injuries or head injuries are required modification in their lifestyle as well. Then head injuries, we have a divided program into acute, subacute, and chronic. Transfer training, we start from acute stage. In the acute stage, the more focus is geared up for chest physiotherapy and transfers in bed and to sitting. Then the subacute stage, we start off with the cognitive training, the functional training, and we have seen a lot, many merits with constraint induced therapy that we implement. Of course, there are researches done on this saying that sometimes the patient, if he's not emotionally stable, it is difficult, but there are other ways to go about the constraint induced therapy. Then balance rehab also forms an important domain. Moving on, mirror therapy is easily available. The principle here is it should be 90 degrees. The uses are extensive, and when we talk about the uses, it is extensively used as a biofeedback mechanism in phantom limb sensation, complex regional pain syndrome as well. About 70% of our patients report pain post-stroke. So this is a fundamental that we can use when we are training them with the motor learning, to train them with the proprioception, and the visual feedback is very, very important. And it is again based on the concept of neuroplasticity. The affected limb could be in the box, and then he or she does the fine motor functioning, looking in the mirror with a normal hand that he has. And definitely we have got excellent results, but the time zone is very important here. The patient has to practice almost 6 hours every day, 5 days in a week. That is very important. Another topic of interest is dementia and depression. You will be alarmed at these numbers. Dementia is the 3rd commonest cause of neuro rehab patients that we have in our OPDs or admissions. And when we work with these patients, it is basically the cognitive level that we are working with, the activities of daily living, and on their behavioral patterns. I would just give a simple example, bedside example. You can ask them, you can give them numbers, and you can ask them to cross 6 number and 9 number and really understand their cognitive part as well. Depression especially holds very important for caretakers as well. And this needs to be addressed when you're admitting patients under rehab. Whatever the domain, it could be orthopedics, pulmonary rehab, or even neuro rehab. As I mentioned earlier in my session today, that one of the principles is repetitions. Now, how frequently does he or she work? If he has stroke or any neuro condition, we need to first assess, map short-term goals, long-term goals, and then decide on the frequency and the intensity. But when we talk about cord injury, head injuries, and stroke patient, 6 hours every day is what is really required. And the type of exercise could be coordination exercises, strength training, or even endurance training. This is one of the concerns to us, because falls of our patients post 65 age is a big number what we see. And what we see from this slide is very important to have preventive measures and balance rehabilitation. So we have devised a good program for balance rehab as well. Balance Master is available with us, and we really measure the sensory and the motor functions and then chalk down a program for the balance rehabilitation. If nothing is available, what you can do is use a Romberg test, check the test, and if it is positive, you can start off with various stimuli from the vestibular or the sensory stimuli. Core stabilizing exercises also can be done. And you can use a foam surface or a pillow, a soft pillow, that can really help in proprioception stimulus as well. One leg standing is a fundamental bed test that you can really do to really find out how much his performance is with the core muscles. Hematology, it holds a significant value here. The bleeding disorders, hemophilia, which is a very rare bleeding disorder, but the patients are affected, especially 85% of them bleed in the joints or the muscles. This was my first published paper, Joint Assessment in India. It shows all the data that is required for us to assess about the joints and the muscles and the structure. And the strength training has proved it's said to reduce the number of bleeds that the patient can have. In hemophilia, if you can really reduce the number of bleeds, the prevention part takes care, and the joint and the muscle remains healthy. So if you look at the elbow joint, the effects of the gripping exercises, this was again one of the poster presentation, a published paper again. And when we are working on the elbow joint, we also need to work on the proximal and the distal muscles as well. This patient, I picked him up from Goa. He was in the wheelchair for 7 years with hemophilia. And you can see his joint arthropathy, the hemophilic arthropathy. He was not able to transfer to standing. And we put him in the rehab unit for 4 months. And then he was able to walk with a walker. And now he's able to walk with a stick. And if you really read on this slide, we are using good scales. The hemophilia joint health score is being used here. So we have individual scales that we need to use to really quantify the difference post therapy. These are my concluding slides of my presentation. Here I'm trying to show that our stroke patients recovered by 50% after 3 months of rehab in the rehab unit. I'm using 2 scales, Barthel Index and Berg Balance Scale. The Berg Balance Scale shows the balance scoring. It is comprising of 56 points, and Barthel Index is 100 points. Those are functional scorings about the bowel bladder, the transfers, and the functional independence and grooming as well. So if you really invest in measuring what he can do and include the various team members and really bring the patient to a platform where he can regain his strong balance within 3 months, what we have seen is a good result in 3 months by 50% improvement in these scales. So I would like to conclude saying today that goal planning is utmost important. Short-term goal planning in the critical areas includes your positioning, your transfer techniques, and the chest physiotherapy part. And in the long-term goal planning, we also have to remember to include the participation and the social activities as well. And with this changing possibilities with limited resources, I welcome you all in the Rehab Valuable team. And definitely, we are here to improve the quality of life of our patients. With this, I really would like to thank you all for your kind attention, and Prerak especially for his inputs and bringing me here, welcoming this team. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am, for your time.